Welcome to True Crime, The Untold Stories, the podcast that uncovers haunting tales of passion, treachery, and murder. In this episode, we journey to the small town of Fredericksburg, Texas, where an idyllic community was shattered in early May of 2021. What started as whispers of an affair unraveled into a gripping account of lies, turmoil, culminating in the brutal murder of a pregnant secretary. Gretchen Danz, a 29-year-old secretary at the Fredericksburg Sheriff's Office, was widely admired for her beauty and warm personality. A native of Fredericksburg, Texas, she graduated from Fredericksburg High School in 2010 and later earned an associate degree in business administration from Central Texas College. In 2016, she married her high school sweetheart, Simon Danz, and together they were often seen as the ideal couple. Deeply involved in her community, Gretchen had a talent for candy making, crafting delights like strawberry marshmallows and fruit gumdrops. She frequently shared her homemade treats with her colleagues, spreading joy wherever she went. In early 2020, Gretchen began working at the sheriff's office, where she met Sheriff Roderick Mann, a charismatic and respected figure in the community. At 42, Roderick was renowned for his charm and natural ability to connect with people, traits that had secured him multiple re-elections. Initially, their interactions were strictly professional, with Roderick taking on a mentoring role to help Gretchen adjust to her new position. As they spent more time together, their conversations became increasingly personal. Gretchen confided in Roderick about the growing difficulties in her marriage, how Simon had grown distant and seemed uninterested in starting a family. In turn, Roderick shared his own struggles, admitting to his reputation as a womanizer and the strain it had placed on his personal relationships. By mid-2020, their bond had deepened. One evening, after working late at the office, their relationship crossed the line into something physical. Both experienced a mix of exhilaration and guilt, but justified the affair as an outlet of their emotional dissatisfaction. Determined to keep their illicit relationship hidden, they took elaborate precautions, meeting discreetly in out-of-town motels and using burner phones to communicate. Gretchen even adjusted her work schedule to avoid raising suspicion. In February 2021, Gretchen discovered she was pregnant, a revelation that filled her with both joy and dread. While she deeply desired to become a mother, she faced the unsettling reality that she couldn't be certain whether Simon or Roderick was the father. This uncertainty consumed her, casting a shadow over her excitement. Initially, Gretchen tried to conceal her pregnancy, opting for loose-fitting clothing and steering clear of discussions about her plans. When she eventually confided in Roderick, his reaction was one of alarm. He implored her to keep the baby's paternity a secret, heightening her emotional turmoil. In the weeks leading up to her death, Gretchen's demeanor grew increasingly unpredictable. Friends noticed her swinging between moments of exuberance over the baby and episodes of intense anxiety. She began hinting to Simon about her desire for a fresh start, but stopped short of admitting her infidelity. By early May, she had started exploring DNA testing options online, seeking answers that might provide clarity. As she wrestled with her conflicting emotions, Gretchen found herself ensnared in a tangle of secrets and fear, uncertain of what lay ahead for her and her unborn child. On the morning of Saturday, May 8, 2021, Fredericksburg, Texas, greeted the day under a clear, bright sky. Around 8 a.m., 27-year-old Deputy Luke Schaffstall arrived at the sheriff's office to begin his weekend shift. On his way, he had stopped at Starbucks for coffee and a breakfast sandwich, a small routine to kickstart his day. As he locked his car door in the station's parking lot, something unusual caught his attention. Gretchen Danz's Toyota was still parked in its usual secluded spot at the back corner of the lot. Curious, Schaffstall stepped into the office and called out Gretchen's name. The unsettling silence that followed put him on edge. When he approached her desk, he saw her purse sitting undisturbed, but Gretchen was nowhere to be found. Growing more concerned, he returned to the parking lot to investigate further. As he walked toward her car, he noticed the back door was open. What he found froze him in his tracks. Gretchen's lifeless body was crumpled in the back seat, blood pooling around her head. Shocked, Schaffstall stood paralyzed for a moment before instinctively checking for any signs of life. There were none. With trembling hands, he called 911 to report the grim discovery. "Dispatch, this is Deputy Shaftstall. I need immediate backup at the sheriff's office." It's Gretchen," he said, his voice breaking. Paramedics arrived swiftly, followed by additional deputies. While examining Gretchen, first responders uncovered a stunning detail. Though she had succumbed to her injuries, her unborn baby was still alive. Acting with urgency, they performed an emergency cesarean section right there in the parking lot, successfully delivering a healthy baby girl. The infant was rushed to the hospital's neonatal care unit, where doctors marveled at her survival. Meanwhile, deputies secured the area, cordoning off the parking lot and surrounding area. News of the tragedy spread quickly through Fredericksburg, a close-knit town of fewer than 11,000 residents. By midday, local news outlets like the Fredericksburg Standard were covering the shocking event, and social media buzzed with speculation and grief. The loss of Gretchen, a mother-to-be eagerly awaiting the birth of her child, devastated her family, friends, and community. As people mourned, questions about the circumstances of her death loomed large, casting a somber shadow over the town. Fredericksburg was left searching for answers, grappling with the sudden and heartbreaking loss of one its own. The scene in the police station parking lot on the morning of May 8, 2021, was a haunting blend of tragedy and resilience. Gretchen Danz, 29, was found lifeless in the back seat of her car, blood pooling around her head, the result of blunt force trauma. Amid the grim discovery, a remarkable opportunity for hope emerged. Gretchen was 9 months pregnant, and her baby might still be saved. Paramedics acted swiftly, performing an emergency cesarean section right there in the parking lot. Against all odds, a healthy baby girl was delivered, her cries piercing through the chaos. A small miracle in an otherwise horrific scene. The newborn was rushed to Methodist Hospital Hill Country for further care, as news of the astonishing rescue quickly spread. Meanwhile, the parking lot was cordoned off as a potential homicide scene. Lead investigator Sergeant Christopher Ranselman, 45, known for his meticulous approach, arrived within the hour to oversee the case. The Toyota and surrounding area were carefully examined for evidence. Blood spatter analysis indicated that the fatal blow had been delivered at close range. Gretchen was discovered in the back seat, jewelry intact, suggesting robbery was not the motive. This raised the possibility that her killer was someone she knew. Detectives found Gretchen's phone in her purse, and a review of her recent messages revealed a shocking twist. She had been involved in an affair with Sheriff Mann. The sexually explicit texts detailed a trail of secret meetings, escalating arguments about her pregnancy, and Mann's desperate pleas for her silence. The revelation stunned the officers on the scene, many of whom had worked under Mann for years. Known for his charisma and integrity, Mann had built a reputation as trustworthy leader. Yet, these messages painted a picture of a man under immense pressure, willing to go to great lengths to protect his career and personal life. Sergeant Ranselman directed his team to investigate Mann's recent activities and his connection to Gretchen. At the same time, they flagged her husband, Simon Danz, as a person of interest, citing the couple's strained relationship in recent months. The discovery of Gretchen's affair added layers of complexity to the case, sending shockwaves through the tight-knit community and tarnishing Mann's public image. As investigators pieced together forensic evidence and gathered witness statements, they began unraveling a web of secrets and betrayal, threatening to shatter the town's trust in its leaders. Simon Danz and Gretchen were often considered the perfect couple in Fredericksburg, Texas. High school sweethearts, they had been married for 5 years, living an enviable life in a cozy home on Stone Ridge with a tight-knit circle of friends. At 30, Simon worked as a math teacher at the local high school, known for his quiet and introspective nature. Gretchen, on the other hand, complimented him with her warmth and outgoing personality, making them a cherished duo in their small-town community. However, their seemingly perfect relationship hid growing tensions. Over the past year, friends noticed Simon pulling away, frequently staying late at work and skipping social events altogether. Gretchen had openly expressed her desire to start a family, but Simon seemed reluctant, often brushing off discussions about having children. When Gretchen announced her pregnancy, Simon's reaction was notably subdued. Instead of excitement, his response was strained, sparking speculation among their closest friends. When Gretchen was found murdered, suspicion quickly turned toward Simon. The police brought him in for questioning, and though he initially appeared devastated, his grief came under scrutiny. "I loved her," he told officers, his voice trembling. But his composure faltered when detectives confronted him with evidence of Gretchen's affair with Sheriff Mann. Text messages and logs from her phone revealed a months-long relationship with Mann, including late-night meetings. Simon was blindsided. "I didn't know," he stammered, gripping the edge of the interrogation table. The betrayal hit hard, his shock soon giving way to anger and heartbreak. Despite his emotional turmoil, Simon firmly denied any involvement in Gretchen's death. "I could never hurt her, no matter what happened between us," he insisted. Investigators pressed him for his whereabouts on the night of May 7th. Simon claimed he had spent the evening at home, watching reruns of Dateline on Peacock before falling asleep on the couch. He even invited the police to search his property to clear any doubts. The search yielded troubling findings. Inside the shed, police discovered a hammer and a pair of gloves stained with what appeared to be blood. Forensic testing later revealed that the blood did not belong to Gretchen, but the discovery raised further questions. Simon's apparent heartbreak and the strained state of his marriage cast a shadow of doubt, leaving him under the investigative spotlight. Sheriff Roderick Mann, 42, was a prominent figure in Fredericksburg, Texas, admired for his charisma and skill at resolving disputes. To the public, he seemed like a natural leader who could win over anyone. Yet, beneath the surface, his personal life was rife with controversy. Rumors had long circulated about his predatory behavior, particularly his tendency to pursue married women, using his position of authority to lure them into affairs. Some whispers even alleged that Roderick had paid at least 2 women to terminate pregnancies to keep his indiscretions hidden. Gretchen Danz was one of several women tangled in Roderick's web of affairs. When questioned by police, he initially dismissed their relationship as insignificant. "Gretchen and I were nothing," he said with a shrug, trying to downplay the connection. "Just quickies every now and then." She understood that. Roderick claimed the affair began casually, starting with late-night make-out sessions at the sheriff's office that evolved into secret trysts at motels outside town. He described the relationship as entirely consensual and purely physical, insisting that Gretchen knew he wasn't going to change his life for her. However, detectives weren't swayed by his nonchalant demeanor. They had uncovered a series of text messages between him and Gretchen that painted a different picture. In one message, Gretchen begged him to take responsibility for her pregnancy. Days before her death, she sent a final, desperate text: "We need to talk. I can't do this alone anymore." The interrogation took a dramatic turn when detectives confronted Roderick with forensic evidence, a paternity test confirming he was the father of Gretchen's unborn child. His confident facade crumbled. He went pale, leaning back in his chair as he struggled to respond. "That's not possible," he muttered, shaking his head. Pressed further, he admitted that Gretchen had told him she wasn't certain if the baby was his or her husband's. "I didn't think it was mine," he said defensively, his voice rising in frustration. As detectives continued to press him, they emphasized the stakes. His career and reputation were all on the line. Though Roderick adamantly denied involvement in Gretchen's murder, his flustered demeanor and evasive answers only fueled their suspicions. "I've made mistakes," he admitted bitterly, his frustration evident. "But I'm no killer." Yet, with his history of infidelity and the damning paternity results, Roderick remained a central figure in the investigation, and police were far from ready to clear him of suspicion. As investigators delved deeper into the lives of Gretchen Danz and Sheriff Roderick Mann, they unearthed a surprising revelation: an involvement of a third person. This individual, secretly in love with Roderick for years, harbored unreciprocated feelings that eventually turned into resentment, reshaping the entire course of the investigation. The breakthrough came when detectives examined Roderick's emails and social media accounts. Amid the routine exchanges, they discovered a trail of messages from Susan Grishzesh, a 43-year-old dispatcher at the sheriff's office. What began as seemingly benign emails gradually unveiled a pattern of intense affection, frustration, and ultimately hostility. One email from March 2021 stood out. Susan wrote, "I've always been there for you, Roderick. I don't understand how you could do this to me. To us." Another, sent just weeks before Gretchen's death, carried a darker tone. "You'll regret hurting me, just like you'll regret choosing her." Interviews with Susan's co-workers and friends painted a picture of a woman consumed by her infatuation with Roderick. Having worked closely with him for over a decade, she was known for her unwavering loyalty. Colleagues recalled Susan often speaking admiringly of Roderick, even hinting that she believed they were destined to be together. Tensions reportedly escalated when Susan learned of Roderick's affair with Gretchen. Investigators suspected she accessed this information through her position at the sheriff's office, either overhearing confidential discussions or seeing private messages. Witnesses observed significant changes in Susan's demeanor during this time. She became withdrawn, irritable, and avoided social interactions. The investigation took a decisive turn with security footage from the Danz family's neighborhood. A car matching Susan's vehicle was spotted near the Danz residence late on the night of Gretchen's death. A subsequent search of Susan's vehicle uncovered hair strands and fibers consistent with evidence found at the crime scene. This revelation shifted the focus of the investigation entirely. Detectives theorized that Susan's growing bitterness toward Roderick, fueled by her knowledge of his affair, drove her to view Gretchen as a rival. Believing Gretchen had come between her and Roderick, Susan may have acted out of jealousy and rage. The evidence forced investigators to reconsider their initial theories. Forensic teams worked tirelessly to solidify Susan's connection to the crime, preparing for a dramatic development in what was shaping up to be a deeply complex case. As investigators probed into Susan Zesch's history, they unearthed a startling connection to Sheriff Roderick Mann. Susan wasn't merely an admirer from a distance. She was one of several married women drawn into the sheriff's web of seduction. Their affair began 6 years earlier, during late-night shifts at the sheriff's office. At the time, Susan was married to Oscar Zesch, a truck driver, and was just weeks into a pregnancy with her husband. However, she chose to terminate the pregnancy, believing it would interfere with her burgeoning sexual relationship with Roderick. Even then, Susan displayed early signs of obsession with the sheriff. Predictably, the affair shattered Susan's marriage. When Oscar discovered her infidelity, he immediately filed for divorce. After the divorce, Susan's behavior took a drastic turn. Friends and co-workers noted that she became increasingly withdrawn and seemed consumed by her fixation on Roderick, who had since moved on to other relationships. Although Susan tried to project an image of emotional detachment, private emails revealed her ongoing obsession. The loss of her only chance at motherhood, a decision tied to her relationship with Roderick, appeared to deepen her emotional dependence on him, even long after their affair had ended. When police searched Susan's home and electronic devices, they uncovered alarming evidence linking her to Gretchen Danz. Text messages and social media posts revealed veiled threats directed at Gretchen, who was involved with Roderick. In a private Facebook group, Susan wrote, "Some people don't deserve their happy endings. Some people shouldn't bring children into this world," a chilling reference to Gretchen, who was pregnant at the time. Witnesses corroborated Susan's growing hostility. One co-worker recalled her muttering, "That woman doesn't know what's coming to her," after news of Gretchen's pregnancy became public. Investigators also found a disturbing voice memo on Susan's phone in which she raged, "Roderick always ruins lives, but never pays the price." Police believe Susan's threats stemmed from a toxic mix of jealousy and resentment. She viewed Gretchen as not only another woman who had captured Roderick's attention, but also as someone about to have the child Susan could never share with him. The evidence painted a disturbing picture. Susan's threats and erratic behavior suggested she harbored sinister intentions toward Gretchen and her unborn baby. For investigators, these findings solidified her as a prime suspect in a deeply troubling case. As the investigation unfolded, police uncovered shocking evidence implicating Sheriff Roderick Mann as Gretchen Danz's killer. The motive? Desperation. With a re-election campaign just months away, Roderick faced the unraveling of his career and reputation if news of his affair with Gretchen, and the possibility that her unborn child was his, became public. Known for his charm and good old boy persona, Roderick had previously deflected rumors of indiscretions. But this scandal was too explosive to contain. The turning point came on a quiet May night in 2021. Office security footage captured a heated argument between Roderick and Gretchen in his office. Visibly distraught, Gretchen demanded that Roderick take responsibility for their affair, hinting that she was prepared to go public if he refused. Their confrontation spilled into the parking lot, where cameras recorded them entering Gretchen's Toyota. Investigators later theorized that her ultimatum pushed Roderick into a panic. Fearing the loss of his career, reputation, and freedom, he snapped. In a fit of rage and fear, he strangled Gretchen with his bare hands before fatally pistol-whipping her. Realizing the gravity of what he'd done, Roderick quickly set about covering his tracks. To divert suspicion, he framed Gretchen's husband, Simon, planting incriminating evidence in Simon's tool shed. Among the items were gloves stained with Gretchen's blood and a hammer Roderick claimed was the murder weapon. Initially, the plan seemed airtight. As sheriff, Roderick controlled critical aspects of the investigation, ensuring the planted evidence surfaced. However, inconsistencies began to emerge. Forensic analysis revealed that Gretchen's injuries were inflicted by a gun, not a hammer. Surveillance footage also captured Roderick behaving suspiciously near Simon's tool shed on the night of the murder. Additionally, colleagues noted Roderick's erratic behavior during the investigation, including an obsessive focus on implicating Simon. The case unraveled completely when Gretchen's DNA was discovered on Roderick's service weapon. This damning evidence led to his arrest at home, where neighbors reported seeing a pale, trembling Roderick taken away in handcuffs. For Roderick Mann, the arrest marked the end of his double life. Once a respected figure in the Fredericksburg community, he now faced charges of first-degree murder and evidence tampering. His fall from grace, compounded by public humiliation, left him a shattered man. By March 2022, the trial of Sheriff Roderick Mann had become the most talked-about event in Fredericksburg, Texas. Once celebrated as a beloved community leader, Mann now stood accused of first-degree murder for killing Gretchen Danz, a pregnant woman believed to be carrying his child. The courtroom was packed with reporters, townsfolk, and curious onlookers eager to witness the dramatic downfall of a local hero. Roderick's defense team, led by high-profile attorney Gregor Homan, leaned heavily on his once spotless reputation. They portrayed him as a dedicated public servant unjustly accused of a crime that didn't align with his character. Homan argued, a man so respected and cherished by his community would never commit such a heinous act. The defense also sought to discredit the forensic evidence, calling it circumstantial and misinterpreted. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Rosalind Rosenthal, presented a starkly different narrative. They detailed years of manipulation by Roderick, alleging he used his position to conceal his indiscretions. Rosenthal highlighted the overwhelming evidence tying him to the murder, including a DNA match, surveillance footage, and planted evidence in Simon Danz's tool shed. In her closing statement, she asserted, "This is not the case of a wrongfully accused public servant. This is the case of a man who believed himself untouchable, using his power to destroy lives and cover his crimes." Roderick took the stand in his own defense, insisting he was innocent and claiming he had been framed by unknown enemies. While at times emotional, appealing directly to the jury and Fredericksburg residents, his confidence waned under cross-examination. Rosenthal meticulously exposed inconsistencies in his testimony, undermining his credibility. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury delivered a guilty verdict on all counts. On April 13, 2022, Roderick was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the judge read the sentence, Roderick sat motionless, the weight of the decision visible on his face. Outside the courthouse, the community remained divided. Some grieved the loss of the sheriff they had once admired, while others felt justice had finally been served for Gretchen and her unborn child. The trial brought a dark chapter in Fredericksburg's history to a close, though the wounds it left behind would linger for years. Hey, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like our content and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories. Do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe. The guilty verdict against Sheriff Roderick Mann sent shockwaves through Fredericksburg. Once a respected community leader, Roderick began serving a life sentence without parole in a maximum security prison in Texas. Yet his story didn't end with the sentencing. In a startling turn of events, Susan married Roderick in a prison ceremony later that year. The decision provoked outrage and disbelief among locals. Some saw it as a betrayal of Gretchen's memory, while others speculated that Susan's grief and complex emotions might have driven her to such an unexpected choice. Despite the circumstances, Roderick and Susan maintained their relationship through letters, phone calls, and occasional supervised visits. Meanwhile, after a contentious custody battle with Susan Zesch, Simon was granted custody of Gretchen's baby girl. Cleared of any involvement in Gretchen's murder, Simon faced his own struggles. The loss of his wife left him emotionally devastated. Friends described him as a shadow of his former self. Seeking a fresh start, Simon moved away from Fredericksburg and largely withdrew from public life. The tragic death of Gretchen Danz, the scandal surrounding Sheriff Mann, and the fallout became a cautionary tale for Fredericksburg. While life moved on, the events left a lasting impact on the community, serving as a somber reminder of the hidden darkness that can exist behind closed doors. Thank you for listening to True Crime, the Untold Stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay vigilant.